Welcome, everybody, to the Pulse by GRESB. My name is Cathy Granneman. I'm a manager in the member relations team at GRESB, and I'm joined today by Joss Blamire, who's a director in our product team for infrastructure. Joss, welcome.
Good to be here.
Great. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about this new development asset assessment that your team has been working on over the last year. And so first question, very straightforward. Why? Why are we having a new assessment?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. Thanks, Katie. The team's been working on this for about 18 months now, and we're looking forward to launching on April 1st. The reason why is fairly simple, is we know that in terms of the infrastructure market, a large portion of that market is assets in the development phase, so pre-operational infrastructure assets. Even from our own membership, we know that around 15% of the funds that report to GRESB have at least one asset in development. And if we look to the wider market, we know that around 40% of infrastructure funds have at least one asset in the pre-operational development phase. So there's clearly a market need for this. In terms of what that market need is, I think that's also really interesting and something I'd like to touch on today. Across the world, we're going to have a need for more sustainable infrastructure in years to come, and we really want to cater for that at GRESB. So you can think about the sustainable growth we'll have to go through in the first place. So even just something like energy and the change in the energy market that we're going to see over the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to require a huge amount of new infrastructure, with that new power, new grids. And this is something that's going to happen across the world. And we know particularly also in developing markets, development of infrastructure is essential. Socially, it's going to be vitally important. And we know that the pace of that change is going to be rapid as well. So we want a product that can help cater for that and help people to manage their ESG issues in the development phase.
Nice. Yeah. And as you point out, especially in new markets and with the new transition, that's such a crucial thing to do. And one of the features that really stands out with this new assessment is the fact that it contains dynamic materiality, because it caters to both the pre-construction and the construction phases, right? Can you tell us what that actually means in practice?
Yeah, I suppose taking a step back, materiality in the GRESB infrastructure products has always been something which is really crucial. We know we have an assessment that has to cater for over 30 different infrastructure sectors. So already in our operational assessments, we cater for if you're a data center, or if you're a gas-fired power plant, or if you're a tank storage terminal, we have an assessment which will adapt to fit how you should report and what material issues are relevant to you. So we already cater for that, and we also cater for things like size and location as well in our existing assessments. So our questions will change and our scoring will change based on the characteristics of your asset. What we've introduced for the development assessment is another aspect of materiality, and this is to cater for the phase that you're in. So we're aware that ESG considerations vary greatly depending on whether you're in the pre-construction phase or you're in that construction phase. I mean, even from a health and safety point of view, it's obvious that in the construction phase you face unique challenges. So we've tried to create a product that accounts for that, as well as keeping all the characteristics of materiality that exist in the current GRESB assessments.
Great. I'm going to ask you for an example of something that would be covered in the pre-construction phase.
Yeah, well, pre-construction, you're thinking about the design of your asset ultimately. Actually, this is a unique point about trying to assess ESG in the development phase, is that we're actually thinking about the whole life cycle of the asset. So already in the pre-construction phase, you're thinking about how your asset's going to look when it's fully operational, and you're considering the risks, and you're building that into your design of your assessment. And then clearly when you have determined that design and you're going ahead with the build, you then bring in practical immediate risks that you're thinking about in the construction phase. So you have impacts on the local community, you have transport considerations to think about, you even have things like archaeology and how this will be interrupted potentially. So you've got a whole host of unique considerations in the different phases, and we've tried as best we can to account for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine that there's lots of risks, but also opportunities. And it's so important to understand that so you can capitalize on that early on, and from a sort of holistic perspective, but also from the asset side as well. With development assets, as you rightly point out, the different phases can be really crucial because they can take quite long, right? It takes sometimes years to just do the pre-development phase of an asset and to plan everything, get approvals, permits. And it's crucial to already start thinking about ESG during that time and to really keep track of that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. This is another reason why we felt a bespoke assessment for assets in development was so important. We want our users to be able to track the progress of their asset throughout these phases. And as you rightly point out, a large infrastructure project may take over a decade in development. So this is something that people may use year on year and will be able to track progress over time. And then they'll be able to move into that operational phase as well and receive a different assessment to help cater for the unique challenges in the operational phase. So we want to see individual developments being able to move from that initial ideation phase throughout the construction phase and into operation. And that's really completing the set at GRESB of the offering across the life cycle.
That's really great. And I think also for a lot of our investor members and fund managers, but also other stakeholders, it's going to be quite interesting to see the progress of assets over time in terms of the reporting. But it sets this apart from the asset assessment for someone who's a fund manager or an investor member looking at the new reporting structure.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to say about that is a lot of this will be very familiar to people who currently use GRESB. So the development assessment will come with all the same benefits of reporting to GRESB that the operational assessment has. So if you're a manager, you'll be potentially looking at your ESG strategy in general, and by doing the assessment, you'll be able to understand where you are in relation to the market. You'll be able to track your own progress over time. And of course, you'll be able to share that information with investors as well, and they'll be able to take action based on how you've responded to GRESB and how you're performing. In terms of the differences, it will be a unique score. So the development assets will be compared with other development assets, and we will, at the fund level, introduce a new score. So if you're a fund that has a mixed portfolio, you'll receive a GRESB score and a GRESB development score. And if you're just operational, you'll remain the same and keep the current score that you have. And if you have a portfolio that is only assets in development, you'll just receive that GRESB development score. So really, we want to cater for all possibilities here and reflect what is going on in the market, because we know we have these individual instances out there.
You pointed out before, it's such a crucial thing to be monitoring, and it also means that there's a lot of new opportunities for fund managers, for LPs, for everyone involved to really keep track of what the development phases are doing effectively for these assets and how they can monitor and track that across time and hopefully open up a whole new approach to ESG for those groups, because there isn't really anything out there like it at the moment. So it's really great to hear. And it's great to hear also all these new considerations in terms of materiality, which I think also really set it apart. So great effort from you and the team in developing this together with the GRESB Foundation. Really well done. Very excited to see the first results coming out later this year.
We're really excited as well. We know that already we have people who are ready to go and report to the assessment when it launches on April 1st. And we're keen to hear the market feedback. We're always open to changes in feedback, and we want to work with people who are using the assessment or who are looking into that. And we'd be happy to engage anytime.
Oh, you've heard it here, folks. Just wants your emails. I think it's a really exciting time for GRESB, and really looking forward to seeing how this develops over time. Excuse my pun. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of The Pulse by GRESB, that you will tune into our next one.